25 points, 7 assists, and 5 rebounds per game. Those are the numbers Lamelo Ball averaged last season. Pretty good numbers, right? Well, that is until you realize he shot a career low from the field and from three-point range. And the Hornets had the 3rd worst record in the NBA. And with Lamelo Ball entering his 6th season in the league, I don't think any of us really know if he is an all-star, even all-NBA level player trapped on a terrible franchise, or if he's destined to be a guy capable of putting up good stats that never contribute to team success. Now, before you say anything, yes, I do know. Even Michael Jordan himself couldn't have brought this Hornets team to an NBA championship. But there is a reason superstars almost never miss the playoffs. And there are reasons Lamelo Ball isn't a superstar right now. One of those reasons is efficiency, because I just mentioned it before, but last year was a career worst from the field and from three. And just to put his numbers into perspective, of all players to average above 25 points, Lamelo was the least efficient. He was also second for turnovers and had the 2nd worst plus minus. And before you think this is a video where I just hate on Lamelo the entire time, that's not what it is, because this is what makes Lamelo so interesting / confusing, because all of what I just said is completely true. But at the same time, this is the same guy who dropped 67 points in back-to-back games against the Celtics, doing things like this against Derek White.
Lamelo off balance, but still hit it!
Or this play where he crosses Peyton Pritchard. He then draws Cater, finding Diabate, but he's not done as he relocates to the corner, and whilst falling backwards, with Pritchard all in his face, he somehow knocks down the shot. And this is the paradox of Lamelo Ball, because on one hand, these shots he makes in games like this against the Celtics, where he finishes with 36 points and is completely unguardable against the best defenders in the league, that's what makes him special. But over the course of a season, we have seen it's not the most sustainable form of offense. There is a reason no one else takes these kind of shots, and we've seen it in preseason already that he is still taking and making these shots. And part of me is conflicted because it is incredible to watch, but it is also, it's not pretty. And this shows up in the stats, because when you look at Lamelo's season last year, he started on fire. He was the most entertaining player in the league his first 15 games, averaging 31 points, 7 assists per game, and attempting 13 threes a night. And those shots I was showing you, he was making them at a rate good enough to justify the volume and the usage. And if there's one game that stands out to me, it wasn't his 50 points against Milwaukee, or the back-to-back against the Celtics, or the 44 against Orlando. Yes, this was all in the first 15 games of the season. No, it was the 2nd game of the year against the Atlanta Hawks, in which Lamelo made 9 3-pointers. And guys, just look at some of the shots he was making. Every shot is a heat check. After those first couple of threes, Lamelo just started trying things that no one else does. But he wasn't just trying it, he was making it, and making it, and making it.
Ball looking to shoot. Pella's pass intercepted by Ball. 3-on-2 Charlotte. Get up on him.
Unfortunately, in the same game, he had 10 turnovers, was a negative plus minus, and the Hornets lost. Do you see why Lamelo is so confusing? Because one part of me wants to believe he is the toughest shot maker in the league alongside Steph Curry and Kyrie Irving, but on the other hand, what makes these guys so great is they are able to make those tough shots every single game, play after play. Lamelo hasn't mastered that skill yet, because I showed you his first 18 games of the year. Compare that to his last 29 games of the year, and you see the problem with taking shots like that so consistently. And I know the 3-point shooting stands out, but in saying this, it's not necessarily the 3-point shooting that is his problem. Prior to this year, in fact, that has generally been the most efficient part of his game. The problem is his other ways of scoring, and more specifically, what he does at the rim. Because last year, Lamelo shot less than 51% at the rim. Yes, I just said 51%. And just to put that into perspective, for all guards who attempted at least 150 shots at the rim, Lamelo was dead last. And as opposed to the three-point shooting, this was not a fluke. This is something that has been consistent with his game ever since he entered the league. And there's just no way he should be this bad. I mean, what's the point of being 6'8" if you are going to be the worst finisher at your position in the league? I get it when guys like Trae Young struggle. You are 6'8", my guy. And I get he is a finesse kind of player, but there is no way someone with his handle, his size, and his skill should be that bad. I think a great comparison is Josh Giddey, who many have considered a bad finisher and not a great athlete at his size. Well, he was still considerably more effective as a finisher last year than Lamelo. And I think for Lamelo, he just doesn't have a willingness to embrace contact. And even if he did try to embrace contact, more importantly, he doesn't have the strength, which is probably the most disappointing part. Because like I mentioned, this is not a fluke. This has been a problem ever since he entered the league. And for him to have entered year 5 and gotten even worse and become the worst in the entire NBA, I mean, that's just inexcusable. And obviously, we can't blame Lamelo solely for this team's lack of success. We can't really blame him at all, because the teams he's had around him have been dire. I mean, since he entered the league, his second option has been a combination of Miles Bridges, Kelly Oubre Jr., Terry Rozier, and a second-year Brandon Miller. That is absolutely insane. I mean, people have talked about Trae's supporting cast or Luka's. Those guys' teams look like the 96 Bulls compared to some of these teams that Lamelo has had to play with. But I do think finally the Hornets actually look like they're building something. I think there's a culture there for the first time. And I know this is cliche or seems small, but even when all of the vets showed up for when the new rookies signed their contracts, I think that was a sign of a building culture and a team that might finally be on the right path. And not just culture, but if Brandon Miller can get healthy and improve, if Con Kneppel is as good as a lot of us think he could be, Colin Sexton will be nice off the bench. Don't get me wrong, I don't see this team competing for anything next year unless Lamelo and Miller can have serious all-star type seasons, but I at least see the outlines of a team that can be good within the next few years. And we have seen it happen with Lamelo. With his one season in which he played over 70 games, he made the All-Star team, and they won 43 games in the process. So it's not like he can't contribute to winning. He needs the right environment around him, which he hasn't had, but there are also aspects of his game which have clearly been a problem, including defense, including finishing, and some of the shots he takes, not to mention the turnovers. Yes, these have all been problems that he hasn't really looked to improve. And I think for Lamelo Ball, if he wants to become the superstar, which he has the ability to be, he's going to need to improve on all of those aspects. And you're also going to have to hope that the Hornets actually give him a decent team as well, because that's also very important.